worked into the color line. Our GK color line is phenomenal. And if you don't know it yet, if you're learning it, if you're new to it, then I hope that you're open to see all those possibilities. We have a wide range of tools to help really achieve any look for any client. We have everything from semi-permanent color toners to your 40 volume lifting, doing fashion colors with direct dyes. So if you're already using it, I hope I'm going to give you some information of ways to kind of enhance what you're doing that hopefully will help some of the processes you have, maybe some issues that you're having with gray coverage or hitting that tone that you're really trying to achieve and you can't quite get there. So of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to direct them at me and I will do my best to answer them. If I can't, I will absolutely message you later to give you all the information you need. So this is our first model, and I'm kind of, for time's sake, gonna break this up a little bit. So we are going to lighten her. So as you can see, she's already a very warm color naturally. Of course, she's lovely mannequin hair. So while they say it's human, it must be superhuman because it's weird. So she already has a lot of warmth to her hair. And what we're going to do, the end result we're going to get to today that I am going to break up, actually, you can see my second one back there, with two models, is a more vibrant version of what she has. She's ready to pop a little bit, and we are going to do that for her. So we're going to do a two-step process. We're going to do a highlight and a tone. We're going to start with the tone because if she were a real client in my chair, we like to think ahead, right? So what if because she has this beautiful warm color already, we make her pop and she gets in the real world, doesn't get the reaction she thinks, very normal, and she's ready to dumb it down a little bit, right? So we want to think ahead, think of the integrity of the hair, think of what we may have to do to go backwards a little bit. I always like to be prepared. So we are going to highlight her. What I'm going to demonstrate with the highlight, it's going to give me a chance to kind of talk to you about the lighteners. We have the best lighteners I've ever used, and I've done hair over 20 years. And we have a lightener for everybody, which is what's so amazing, right? So I'm going to demonstrate some placement based on what our end goal is going to be. And I'm going to use our new lightener powder mask, which is my favorite right now. So I'm a little bit obsessed. So I'm excited to tell you guys about that. So I am going to demonstrate placement with that to give you how we mix that, other things we can add to that, to add some insurance to her final results. And then again, because of time's sake, I do already have a toner on a mannequin ready to rinse out. We're going to blow dry her, and we're going to see, I actually did 2 variations of the toner, which, hair gods, hopefully it has the 2 results I'm looking for. I already know what the one will be. So if not, you can play a little more at home. Okay, so first thing I kind of want to chat with you about is if this were a real client in our chair, okay, and she had real hair that hopefully was much easier to work with, we'd have to have our consultation. We would need to talk to her about what is already living in her hair, what has she done, all of those things, right? Now, in this case, we're going to pretend that this is virgin hair that we're working with, okay? So for those of you that don't have this, this is our swatch book. I love this. This is our Bible of GK, right? It has absolutely everything in it you could possibly ever need. So any question you have, you can go here, right? So it's going to give you the mixing ratios of every product in the line in every language, not every, but quite a few, way more than I speak. So that's good. So it's also it's going to go through all 96 colors that we have. Okay. It's also in the back. It has the color wheel. All of these numbers, I know I'm kind of far away, but all of these numbers are every color in the line. So all of this is going to show you what's living in these colors that are all in here. Okay. So you can see where you're at, you can see where you need to go or what you need to try to avoid. Okay. So, of course, we all know as hairdressers that we have a baseline, right? We all went to beauty school. You had to learn the basics of color, the color wheel, okay, all that primary stuff. And once you've been doing it a while, you start getting a little braver and you start trying to bend the rules. We don't break them, you break them, there's no going back. They will prove you wrong every time, but you can bend them a little bit. So what I've done is, because her hair naturally is already has so many tones in it, I've matched her up to actually our chocolate series versus a neutral, because she really is already so multi-dimensional, which is what's going to make our final model back here really pretty. So I have already matched her to between like a 799 and an 899. She's got some highs and lows in here. Let me kind of take her off of here and show you up close. My lighting is so fantastic. But you can see right here's the 799 and the 899. She's living in between there. So naturally, I would, not having anything in her hair, I would have her lift with a 20 volume. She's already gonna have, because of where she's at in our little Bible here. If you look at the 799, just so you guys can understand what I was saying with the colors in here, the 799 lives right here between the copper and the red. Okay, so we're right in here. So we're gonna have everything in that, right? We're gonna have some gold undertones, which going to more of a copper pop, I want to live with those gold undertones. Those are okay to stay in there. We don't need to get this to a white. We're not trying to get crazy. Okay. But also because this hair is not normal hair, I am going to raise her volume level to about a 30 volume, just for the sake of it doesn't love to lift. So I got decent results with that. But if she were real, I would say 20 volume would be completely fine. You could do 30 and there would be no issues with that. But 20 would do the job for what we're toning to. So what we are going to tone to, just so we can see it on the swatch, we have a new 9.4, and I really wanted to play with it because I don't have a lot of clients who are bold enough to do this, or maybe I'm not bold enough to do it to them, who knows. But the 9.4 is right here. And I think for a highlight, I think it's beautiful. I think it gives you that warmth without being too crazy. You could add a little bit of our red additive to it if you wanted to give it a little bit of depth and a little bit more warmth, maybe so you wouldn't feel like it would be too hollow. But I feel like when you're already working with someone who's got that depth and that warmth in their hair, I think it would be a really nice highlight. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix up the lightener. I'm going to talk to you about that really quick. I'm going to go through our 4 lighteners, but this one specifically, this is one of our newest ones, and it is phenomenal. I've been using it for about 4 months. I use it right now. I'm probably using it about 65 to 75% of the time. It is creating a very pretty natural highlight that I'm not having to use heat on. I'm not having to really like bust through their pigment. I'm not having to tone with a lot of this right now. And right now I'm here in Florida. We're kind of in between, like, I guess it's spring, we're all dying from allergies, but everybody's kind of liking that lived-in look, but wants that brightness around their face. So I'm doing a lot of kind of partials with this, and then touching up their gray or just giving them some depth at their root. And it's coming out beautiful without even having to tone. So this lightener, this is our lightening powder mask. So this gives you 9 levels of lift. It's got your hyaluronic acid in it. So of course with that, it's going to condition and it's going to moisturize. It's got meteorite powder, and I'll show you when I mix it. It is gray. It is literally like not far from this color. That's going to nourish and strengthen your hair. So you're really covering all of your bases and keeping your hair very much intact while we're trying to compromise it, right? One of our other amazing tools that we have is our shield additive. If you're not using this yet, if you're scared to use it, I have friends who have been scared to use it. I actually was for a little bit too, to be fair. There are other products on the market that resemble what this does, right? So when you use shield additive, you're gonna get more shine from this and you're gonna keep your hair integrity, okay? It's going to create bonds in your cortex to protect the hair and protect its already existing structure, okay? So it's not gonna let you get any further damage. We also know, back to the basics, if the hair is too compromised, the hair is too compromised. So just always remember that when you're doing your consultation. While this is amazing, it's not a miracle worker and it's not gonna put their hair back. So, with this, now if somebody's already pretty compromised, I'm gonna use a little bit. I'm gonna use this more with like our Lightening Powder Plus that doesn't have some of these really amazing new technologies in it. But if somebody is really compromised, this is gonna do amazing things. And just ensure, right, that we're not doing any more harm, because it's the last thing we wanna do. If you can keep your client's hair healthy, looking new, feeling fresh, shiny, right? They all want the social media hair. They're gonna always come back, okay? So I'm gonna mix this up. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. Like I said, I am gonna use 30 volume because our model's amazing. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of this in, just also because this hair is not great. And I usually do about 3 pumps, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mix that up so we can get going on her processing. Let's move our other lovely model to the side. Now on the mixing of the lighteners, the powder lighteners, sometimes I measure, sometimes I don't. I'm gonna tell you I measure every time though. So you really should. It is, like I said, it's a 1-to-2 mixing ratio. So I'm probably gonna mix way too much, but on the off chance that I don't mix enough, I'm gonna do 30 grams. We're only doing this one side, but okay. So we're gonna do 30 grams. And I'm gonna show you what this looks like, because it's so cool. It's like from outer space. Check it out. It really is great. So we're gonna do that, and then I've got my 30 volume. Always shake your developers. They do settle, and we want to make sure that they are oxidizing the color like they need to, right? So 30 grams, and then we're gonna do 60 grams of our developer. So like I was saying about the 1-to-2 ratio, you know, some people like a thicker consistency. Some people like a creamier one. I prefer a creamier consistency. I want it to really glide on the hair. I want to feel like it's very evenly coating everything, so I'm not getting any like highs and lows from the lifting. So I'll kind of show you what this ratio did. And this is okay. Also, if you're mixing in the shield additive, which I am going to do, while the shield additive will not at all mess with your formulation. So if you're doing this and you're thinking you need to go a level higher and be more aggressive with your developer, you do not. This is not going to dilute your formulation on anything in this line, okay? That's actually the one reason I love it. So this is, it's pretty creamy, right? It's really not too thick. You could do a little less if you wanted a thicker consistency. I've really, with the powders, not had a lot of issues if I just kind of mix together the consistency I like and don't look at my scale. But just always good to reference, right? We don't want to teach you the wrong things. So I put a little bit of the shield additive in, and it is like slightly creamier. I love this consistency. That's perfect for me. So let's get started on her foil placement. So kind of as I was saying, hopefully you can see her okay. feel like I'm gonna break her neck here moving her around, but so on her placement, again, because I'm in Florida, I kind of reference everything back to that, right? But you know, we're getting ready to head into summer, so this will apply for most of you wherever you are. Um, when I'm doing these face framing highlights, okay, on my mannequins, I like to do a really deep part, very dramatic. We want her to be dramatic. So I do love to keep everything light through here, right around the face. My saying is everybody needs a curtain bang and a money piece. Everyone would know who they belong to, and it would be me, right? So I'm going to start at her ear, and I am going to come in at an angle, okay? And what we're trying to remember is this hair is always finer, right? Especially for the poor clients that have the forever baby hairs, which I know Lindsay did a class last week, and if you haven't seen it, it was great, but she really touched on that, on the baby hairs and doing, and I forget the name, so please go watch her class, but where you can take the lightener and touch those up at the end of your processing. And I have done it. It makes a world of difference. We don't think those little baby hairs really impact that darkness that's around their face, but it does. When you do that technique, it makes a world of difference. So I am going to go in and I'm going to go up at an angle to keep that softness, right? We need to think of how it falls, but we also need to think about we live in 1,000,000-degree weather and her hair is going to be back a lot, okay? Now, the other thing to consider is curtain bangs are big right now. People like stuff around their face. So if she is going to have that piece that falls, what is that going to look like, right? We want maybe she in particular wants a little bit of boldness. So we're going to keep that around her face also. So we are going to go in here, make sure that I'm right-handed, so I have to have it accessible. So I'm just going to go through. We're going to start down here at her ear. This seems to be, and I don't know how your clients are, but mine like to come in and, you know, our hair falls. So you can see all the blonde on top, right? And everything around your face. And they come in and they all sit down and they're like, but it's so dark right here. All this is dark. Well, I think as stylists, we get so busy. We focus on what's going to fall down the majority of the time that sometimes we get a little complacent and we don't do as much here maybe as we think we should. And also you want that softness. You don't want a big chunk of blonde coming back, right? That was the 90s. We've moved past that. So while I'm going to do a few more here, they're going to be somewhere between just a baby light and a fine weave, okay? We want to keep it natural looking. So I'm going to kind of show you so you can see. I can get her off of here. I'll show you how thick the weave is, but if you can see that. So that's what I'm doing. This is around her face, this bottom one, okay? So that's what you're going to see when you pull it back. So there's enough there to be bold enough to see it, but there isn't so much that it's going to be a huge heavy chunk, right? All right, so we're going to go in, and sometimes at this point I get to my lightener and I'm like, oh, awesome, it's thickened up more. You can always add just a little bit more developer if you need to. Like I said, you're not really going to mess anything up. So I like to back mine up behind it to try to avoid bleeds. I also try not to wrap it too tight because we don't want to push that out as it swells, right? We need some air to get to it, okay? And I bend it down a little just to keep it out of my way. So now we're going to go through, and I'm going to go about a 1/4 inch or so just above that, okay? I'm really still at the top of her ear. I don't want it to be back to back though, because we know that's going to create a chunk, right? So about a 1/4 inch, same thing. I'm just going to go in and do another little light weave. I really need more developer. And we are going to go root to end. Now, we know if their ends are really compromised or you've already lightened those and this is just a touch up, right? We are not going to overlap that. If they're really compromised, let me kind of turn this so you can see a little bit better. If they are really compromised, and you don't want any overlapping, you can always take, this is another amazing tool, right? Our deep conditioner. You can always take that. You could even put a little bit of shield additive in that. You're going to create a hair Botox treatment with this, okay? And that in the foil on your ends, you can mix a little bit of the lightener. You're going to heal some of those ends while you're getting the root to match, okay? So just another little tip. You don't have to do the shield additive in it. You could just do this. If it's going to sit for about 20, 30 minutes anyway, you might as well be healing some of those ends that are not great. You're going to even out the porosity too, which for your toner is always a good thing, right? Okay, so let me just turn her. I'm still going to keep this about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Now, and I have her parting. You can see I'm kind of right behind the ear a little bit. I know mannequin head's weird, but just imagine. Some people do have a really small space between their face and their ear, and you can use that to your advantage because do you have clients that are like, I want this to be blonde? And we can always go through and put a couple down at the nape of their neck at the corners, and that's fine. That helps achieve that also. But if you can just get those few hairs that kind of come behind that ear and usually in front of your shoulder, you're going to help that a little bit. So yeah, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, like I said, not a big gap again. Also not back to back. Still pretty fine. Not going to do them chunky yet. We don't want them to fall like sheets. If they do, that's great. Let them fall like sheets. That's fine. You can do some slices. Sometimes I'd be a little more aware to get a little closer to the root, especially at their face. This mannequin here, I tell you, it's weird. Okay, so now we've kind of been going in at an angle. I'm going to do one more angle. I'm about 1/2 inch now from the other foil. We're going to come in, same thing, do your weave. Now I know some of you, and sometimes I do, especially if I have a root color on, I won't tri-fold these. I will just fold them once and then bring the sides over. They're easier to get out that way. Like I have some clients that really panic about taking foils out, that they feel like I'm ripping their hair out, or that hairdressers have ripped their hair out doing that. Just for the sake of them not panicking, sometimes just that bifold and wrapping it and keeping it looser. Obviously, they're going to slide out easier. But I like to say that for when I have a root color on so that we're not getting blade stuff's not shifting, you know, especially as we're working through the head. We can get those foils shifting and then you're going to have blade marks. And we all know that's our worst nightmare. So now I've got, you can see I've been going at an angle. So now I'm going to start now just going sideways, okay? Same thing. I'm going to do a slightly thicker section. Still a pretty fine weave. You know, I think highlights are so fun because I think the placement of them, when I started doing hair, we were doing caps. And not for long, thank goodness, but that was still a thing. And you really had no idea. I mean, you kind of had to like feel around on the head to see where you were getting your placement, right? So the lovely thing about now having foils and being able to see exactly where you're putting it, we can create so many more looks, especially if you're doing highs and lows and that kind of stuff. So I do love highlighting and foiling. I just think it's such instant gratification. All right, so now I'm starting to work around that upper hairline where, like we were talking about before, your money pieces, your side bangs, right now we're going to start influencing that as it falls. And we all know we love a good money piece, so we're just going to keep going with that. I'm going to turn you this way. So I really want you to see more of just like which direction my flow is going, okay? I'm going to keep this. You can see where this one falls. I'm going to kind of meet them here at the root, at the hairline, and take it more directly back. It makes you appreciate human hair when you work with these, I can tell you that. So when these meet here at the front hairline, you're going to create that more dramatic look. Now you do have to be careful about pulling it back. You don't want them all to meet, right? Which would be difficult to do anyways, because when she pulls her hair back, you're just going to have a blob of blonde. And no one's born that way, and no one wants to look that way. So now I'm going to go up a little bit. Turn her towards me. Same thing, still staying fairly fine. I'm not taking such thin sections though. If they're a little bit heavier, that's okay. I'm just doing a finer weave. I'm really making sure it's to the root here at the front. Again, the other great thing about the day and age we live in is people love a lived-in look. Nobody really wants to pay the money to get their hair done every few weeks, right? So if we can kind of create that, it's okay to have a little bit of root back here. But they don't want to see their root when they pull their hair back. So again, I'm going to meet that. So keeping it fine. So if you're somebody too that takes a while, if you're newer to hair and you don't work very fast yet, that's okay. You'll speed up. I have colleagues that they don't move very fast. They don't double book. They don't need to move fast. So they don't, I double book a lot, so I have to stay on a time frame. So I do need to keep a pace. If you don't move fast, again, the shield additive is going to benefit you, right? It's going to kind of buy you some time. Especially if you're doing a full highlight, which even those of us that move fast take forever, right? So this is almost where I'm giving it the space at the root here. I'm almost meeting it back here. So I'm kind of going back and forth to create like the volume that I want, the amount, with still keeping it natural and keeping it falling nice, okay? Something else to consider is I don't like to foil my clients the same every single time. That's one reason why I think I've got a lot of my clients doing this face frame kind of sun-kissed look right now, is sometimes they want to be blonder. So you can do your typical down the top, down the sides, right? Which is fine. But then the next time it's really good, and that's how I find it's easier to fill in those gaps, right? That we can get on the side where they don't see the light of day, they don't see highlights. So it kind of keeps everything filled in from appointment to appointment. Okay, so I'm going to create again a little space because we are getting to her actual part line. And it is important during your consultation too, like make sure you're asking them. So many people part so many different ways. Like I flip mine constantly, depending on how dirty and, if it's rainy or not. flip my part around. So make sure you're asking them, do they have a set part? You know, some people do, they can't move it around. So great, you know exactly where to begin and end your highlights, right? If there's somebody who likes to do middle to side, whatever, you gotta be a little more careful. And you'll know their personality. You'll know if they care, if like when they do change it, if they want to see a specific highlight in a specific area, right? So now I'm right on her part line. This is our last one. And then we're going to kind of talk about the other lighteners that we have in the GK family, what their benefits are. There is definitely a lightener for everybody. Out of 24 years of doing hair, I have never had a line I've used that has had this many options that are this good too. So I love that there's so many variations. And if I run out of one I love, there's always a plan B that's equally as good and gonna achieve the same results. So, okay. So she is in. I don't know if that one's really to the roots so good, but you know, mannequin here. We're just gonna clip her back. So I'm gonna bring this up close so you can kind of see. So she has now all of these through there. Like I said, I did create some of that space in between, right? So it shouldn't be so dramatic that when she pulls it back, we're one blobbing it, right? I make up my own words, sorry guys. So we're gonna bring her back here. And I'm just gonna kind of talk to you about the other lighteners. So that was the lightening powder mask. So, I mean, it doesn't change. It is still very much gray, okay? But that's gonna help with the toning of it, strengthening, the nourishing, right? So the other ones that we have, the other newest addition that we have is our lightening powder zero, right? So this one, what's awesome about this is we're working with ingredients that are argan oil. So we're gonna nourish, we're gonna hydrate. We've got quinoa and amino acids to strengthen repair. So awesome, right? And we've got Juvenex V2. So because we have Juvenex in every part of our line, from the smoothie treatments to our take home, to our color, to our lighteners, deep conditioners, all of it, we have vegan parts of our line. So the Juvenex V2 is that, okay? So this is awesome. Now, the zero part of it has to do with shipping. And I don't want to say anything wrong because I'm not going to get the verbiage right. But basically, if you're not in America, it was really getting hard for them to ship with some of the chemicals that were in. Now, none of those are in. That's what the zero's for. So it's just easier to ship to all of our friends not in the US. So again, though, the argan oil, the quinoa, the amino acids, the Juvenex, you will get a beautiful, you will get a shiny, healthy highlight from this, okay? You can add the shield additive, again, for added insurance. This is a great one if someone has compromised hair. I like this one a lot, and I will add the shield additive. Again, remember, you're not diluting your formulation. You don't need to add a higher developer in order to get that lightness or the level that you're already targeting, okay? And you are gonna get 9 levels of lift with this as well. So that is the lightning powder zero. So those are the 2 new guys that we have. So then we have the oldies and goodies. Now I don't use the Miami bombshell for blonde. I combined those. I don't personally use those, or use that one. So I don't have that one to talk about today. I'm sure there will be a class on that, so just keep looking if there already isn't. But one of our oldie but goodies, our lightning cream. This is one of my newer favorite old guys because and I will say, when we were talking about the mixing with the powder lighteners, where you can kind of, customize that to how you like the consistency. This one, you have a much smaller range because that was one of those, I tried to bend the rules and I paid for it, okay? So this one it's a 1-to-2 mixing ratio, but you really want to stay close to that. This is, you're going to get with this one, um, 9 levels of, I'm sorry, 7 levels of lift, not 9. You're going to get 7 with this one. Okay. But this one you can apply on scalp. So for my all over blondes, my platinum blondes, you can put it right on the scalp. This is the one you want. This is your friend. It is a very creamy consistency already. Okay. Now, where I think I messed up before, I always use my scale for this one, always. And if I get it mixed and it's just slightly too thick, I can add just a tiny bit of developer to it and it'll be fine. My issue was I did not have enough developer. So I was reapplying and it was a mess. It was a nightmare. But you can also, again, remember adding your shield additive is going to kind of lighten that mixture a little bit. So you may not, like, make sure you're adding that before you're adding more developer to it, okay? Because that may, a lot of times that does the trick for me and I don't need more. Again, it has argan oil, it has acai oil and Juvenex, okay? And one of my favorites, this is why it's my new favorite now. So Federico, one of our Italian educators who I got the joy of learning from not that long ago, he had taught us, he of course does our bamboo technique, right? If you haven't done it, there's classes out there, take one. It's a great technique, very fast moving, a great way to do a balayage look in a much shorter amount of time. When he does it, he mixes the ash additive in. So the reason I love this now is because we have those clients who, you know, are habitual, like 4-week touch-ups, right? They're white here and they're level 4 here. And they don't want to look so dark, right? They want some dimension too. This is my go-to to get their root touch-up on, okay? While that's processing, because my number 4s are, a lot of them are very resistant. So the longer they sit with this on, the better, okay? It's only going to help them. Of course, our colors are processing 30 to 40 minutes. If you process a little longer, it's okay. The lighteners, of course, we want to watch a little closer, right? So this one, my one client specifically, we kind of go back and forth, kind of how I did her highlights around the face, that whole concept, right? Or some of these pieces underneath. I will get her root touch up on. I will mix some of this up. If she wants to be more of a summer cooler look, I'm going to put in the ash additive, okay? If she wants to be more of a fall winter look, I'll put in a little copper additive to keep some of that warmth. Of course, we're working with a level 4. So what are we working with undertone wise, right? We've got some gold, we got oranges, we got red. So with the ash for the summer version, we are getting to, while it's processing, we're getting to tone those out. What she's left with is a pretty honey, normally look, like very intentional, right? Not like a raw lift where you don't want to really like that. You need to tone her, okay? So it cuts out if you don't want to tone, and you can still, there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you don't want to tone, you're kind of cutting out a step by adding the additive. Now I will add a little bit of a charge for that because you are cutting out a toner, right? Thinking ahead, being smarter, right? You're saving yourself time, but it's still extra color out of your pocket. So think of it that way too. But then if you're doing the copper additive for the winter look, she's leaving. It looks very, honestly, not much different than our new 9-4. Like you're somewhere in this family here, okay? Of course, depending on how much you add. So I kind of just gauge it every time for what I'm feeling that day. She's been one of my long timers, so she doesn't care. And this is a great open air. That's why he uses it for the bamboo technique. This is an awesome open air lightener. So it is a fantastic one. Let's say too, you have a red, a copper or redhead. The nice thing about our colors, they don't brown out, okay? So if they're maintaining at home, I have clients who try to maintain it at home and then they come in for an overhaul. And so what I'll do is their colors brown out here, right? So they'll start to get that warm, hot root here, and I will fix that. And then through here, what I will do is take this, I will add in some additive, maybe not, don't have to. If I know I'm going to tone, I may not necessarily, but also it kind of acts as like a pre-filler, right? Like if you're going to go ahead and do a copper toner, why not add some copper additive to this and start building that in? It's only going to help it live longer, right? And help less fadage. So, and then I will just go through and I will paint it on, right? We'll just kind of balayage it in. Very natural. It's going to cut through that brown, that neutral look, that drab look. You're going to freshen it up with this, and then you're going to go through and you're going to pick, you know, maybe it's not a copper and it's not a red. It might be a chocolate or whatever it is that you're working with, right? But whatever it is, you can really refresh the ends really, really nice. So if you're afraid of this tool, like get a mannequin head and play with it, or find your mom, find your friend, whatever, and just practice painting this on. Maybe you don't do a bunch of balayage. I prefer highlighting. I like everything contained, but I still have a fair amount of balayage I have to do, which I also do in foil, by the way. But these I do freehand, and I do open air, and I just keep it very natural looking. I don't want anything crazy. So definitely try it, even if it's out of your wheelhouse. Give it a shot, okay? And then last oldie but goodie is the Lightning Powder Plus. So this guy here, so he is 9 levels of lift, right? So it's got a blue base. Let me just show you guys. It has a blue base, and the other has a gray. So you are automatically going to help with toning, right? You're going to start cutting out any of those unwanted tones that we don't love. You see that? It's blue. When my clients' kids are in here, they're like, oh my gosh, you're putting blue on my mom's hair. Fun little trick. So yeah, you're going to start toning out those unwanted tones while it's processing, okay? You can get a very beautiful, I would say from a level 7 up, you can get a very beautiful natural highlight. Don't need to tone if you don't want to. If they don't want to spend the money, fine. Level 6 down, probably going to need a tone, okay? It's going to help tone. It's not going to cut it all. This is going to be infused with Juvexin and pectin. So this doesn't have all the newest technology in it. Still has great stuff, an amazing lightener still. This one though, if I'm going to use our Lightning Powder Plus, I'm almost always going to add shield additive just for the added insurance that, you know, it doesn't have the argan oil and some of the other things. So I just want to ensure that they're getting all the conditioning that I can give them. Okay. So that is that. So the last thing we're going to do is our other lovely model here. So what I have done is, like I said, I prepped her before the class. So what I did is I wanted to use this new 9.4. So I actually did like a little test here on the 9.4. And when I did it, it was vibrant. And the reason I did this entire half of the head with straight 9.4 and 8 volume is because I want you to see how pigmented this color is. Now, again, we're dealing with mannequin hair. Okay, so it is porous, but also does not take like our hair does, right? So you really don't ever know what you're going to get. So when I processed this earlier and saw what it gave me, it's gorgeous. She already had the highs and the lows. I highlighted her very similar to the other mannequin. I did it all throughout. I did a full highlight on her. I did hers a little bit chunkier. I wasn't so concerned with the end result for her. It was more about the technique with that for you guys. But on this side, what I did, and just to kind of show another tool that we have, right, is we have a clear, and I put about 5 grams of the clear into the 9.4 just so you can see a little bit of a difference. Maybe she's a little scared to go out into the real world, a little too poppy, right? So we want to tone that down. We have all the capability to do that. I would always rather go in, especially with something that we've not played with yet, on a real head, a little more conservative, right? Because we can always jazz it up as we go along. Now, the reason I did an 8 volume on her and I kept this as a toner is if she gets to work and she's in a corporate environment and she starts getting comments that maybe she's a little nervous or she's a little too loud, guess what? Next time we can go back in, we can diffuse a lot of that out, and we can tone everything down, right? Because it's only 8 volume. We can work with that. You've got to think about the integrity of the hair. If I just went through with 10 deposit only or 20 volume, we're really getting that into the hair shaft, okay? I'm not trying to bust her hair up over a hope and a dream that she loves the pop, okay? So I'm going to rinse her. So we just need to, because this is a toner, we just need to rinse her and condition her, okay? So I've got to kind of turn my camera here, so bear with me. And these things are so fun to rinse out too. Okay. I think you can see me enough. I'll kind of hold her up, but so she's been processing. So something like, so it looks copper now, right? But you can see where it was clipped up in that clip. It's got like a violety hue. Don't let that freak you out. It will still be copper. Don't rinse it because you think it's going purple. It is not going purple, I promise you. So what I have shampooed her with, what I shampooed with was our CBD. I love, this is probably, our moisture's great. Like, don't get me wrong. I love our moisture shampoo and conditioner, but the CBD is, I use it at home. I kind of flop back and forth with moisture and CBD at my back bar, but I love this. I love the questions that I get about it, which I think is hilarious. But basically our CBD, it's an anti-aging shampoo and conditioner. It is, they don't really advertise it as moisture. We have a moisture shampoo and conditioner, right? But I will tell you, if I have a very porous client who walks around like this all the time with her hair, it definitely, I can see a huge difference after using this at my shampoo bowl one time. So it is anti-aging, it's cruelty-free, vegan, Juvexin, and CBD extracts, right? So like all of our shampoos, they're paraben-free, sulfate-free. So we're just going to rinse this out. We're going to hope that I can get it all out pretty decent. It makes me want to go copper, but it's not really my jam. So if you're not using our whole line and you're just using parts of it, one of the things that I have learned from using the entire line is that in talking to my clients about it, I just feel like there's such added benefit, right? So if you think about the take-home products, you're doing a keratin, what do you want to do? You want to send them home with our GK shampoo and conditioner, right? It's got all of the same ingredients. It's going to help keep that keratin lasting longer. And the same with the color. They're all going to be color protecting. And they're just good shampoos. I mean, everyone anymore is buying paraben, sulfate, gluten-free stuff, right? Nobody wants that in their hair. We've all at this point learned it's not doing anything good. So this is a CBD conditioner, and it does smell really, really good too. Okay, I'm not going to open that right now. I'll just use mine. People always want to know what it smells like. Am I going to smell like something in particular? And I'm like, no, you're going to smell like citrus. One of my clients, the first time I used it on her, said, why do I smell lemon pledge? And I was like, I wish you never said that. I don't need to attribute that smell, cleaning my house, to this smell, right? It's hard when they don't have a neck to get through it all, but we're going to do it. I think it smells lovely. It smells very clean. A very clean citrus is what I think it smells like, but I know we all smell something different. All right, so once I get this rinsed, we are going to dry her just so you can see the final results, okay? See the difference in just adding a little bit of the clear? Now, another tool that we have in our color line that I use a lot of is our booster. And if you use the whole line and you don't have this, it was kind of confusing at first. It took me a minute for it to click for me. So I will say that up front. I was not really understanding, and it's probably just you go to a class and some people say things and you get it right away, and sometimes it takes a few people to say it to you. So that was me in this case. But what I was starting to figure out, I was having a hard time getting gray coverage on a few of my clients. And I don't believe in just going to a different line. Like, you got to figure it out, and we have the line to do that, right? So we have the booster, and what the booster is great for is our super lighteners. Okay, our super lighteners, it can help, which are our highlight part of the line, right? It can help with that. This is what it looks like. Okay, it says 1,000 on it. So this is going to open your cuticle more and help give you more lift. You can actually do a highlight with this as well. Okay, you can lighten the hair with this. You can also use that to help get color, remove color out of the hair. I'm not going to get into all of that just for time's sake, but it's a cool tool that you can do a lot with. So the 1,000 though, for gray resistance, before we had our super intense naturals that we have now, which are amazing. If you haven't gotten them yet, get them. They're super popular. I have a hard time getting some of them that I want sometimes. But on the resistant ones, if you mix your formulation for gray coverage and you want to ensure you're going to get the gray coverage you need, you can always use 30 volume. You can always take it down a level, right? So if you're targeting a 6, do a 7, do a level 6 with a 30 volume, and add in about 10% of your formula with the booster. Okay, so if you're mixing up 100 grams total, you're going to mix 10 grams of the booster. That is going to get into that cuticle, into that hair shaft. It's going to open that up so that pigment can get in there. Okay, and I don't always also formulate darker and formulate with 30 volume either. I will also formulate on target with 20 volume with my booster, same amount. Awesome results. Awesome. So I definitely recommend kind of playing with that. Again, it's not going to dilute anything in your formulation. So, okay, let's get her dry. I'm going to use some thermal styler on her because let's be honest, her hair's busted enough. So this is a heat protectant. It has Juvexin in it. Smells amazing. Everyone loves the way this smells. Okay. I may not talk much through this because I'm going to try to just get it dry so we can get through it, because I have a loud blow dryer. My Dyson blew up, so. Not dried as much as I would maybe want it to be, but just for the sake of, we're nearing on the hour, and I want you to be able to see the final result. So you can see a little bit of a difference. So remember our split, we had straight 9-4 right here, and then 5 grams of clear added into it. This is definitely, you know, there's a little bit of more vibrancy in some areas. I'm kind of trying to turn it. Some of this is still wet too. Because I did highlight her all the way back, right? It's going to take a little bit different in some areas, but that's what we wanted. We want a natural look that looks like it could have grew out of her head this way, right? So I feel like from there you can kind of see it. She looks like a monster, I know. You can kind of see it a little bit better, but if you look down, you can see the vibrancy over here. And over here, you can see where it's just slightly muted. It's not so crazy. So just to kind of give you guys an example of some of the tools that we have, I hope that's helpful. I hope if you have any questions, she's not cooperating. I hope if you have any questions, please direct them to me. I'm more than happy to answer if you forget formulations or need formulations, whatever. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's class, and I hope that you now are inspired to try to use everything in the line and have a better understanding of what some of our little details are that do really make it great and really make it cost efficient and very attainable for any client to have all of their needs met. So